Right, let's talk now about leasehold reform. Joined in the studio by Harry Scoffin, the housing campaigner and founder of Free Leaseholders. I'm quite surprised this is in none of the newspapers today, Harry, because it's clearly an issue that affects a lot of people. Talk us through what yesterday's High Court judgment means and how many people it affects. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for covering this. Yet again, we're relying on LBC because there's almost a media blackout elsewhere. But basically, this matters for the 5.3 million households that are in leasehold, but also anyone that is thinking ever of buying a flat in England and Wales. And basically, why leasehold has become such an issue is you get out a mortgage, most likely, you pay a premium, and you think you're buying a home, but actually you're gaining a landlord. And that landlord is very, very difficult to remove. And that landlord has a whip hand over the single biggest purchase of your life.
You're talking about the freeholder in this
The freeholder
case.
Or the building owner or the landlord, correct. It's not a buy-to-let landlord. And basically, this guy can ratchet up those costs and make your home unlivable, but worse than that, unsaleable. And successive governments have talked about getting rid of the thing or certainly reforming it, but all they do is tinker. And the High Court ruled yesterday and actually came out in favour of the government. And these are about reforms that were passed by the last government, the Rishi Sunak government, pushed by Michael Gove, or Lord Gove as he is now known, but also it wouldn't have happened without the strong backing of the Labour Party, because when Sunak called that election, that legislation, the Leasehold and Freehold Reform Act 2024, hung in the balance. And they said, we need this done in the wash-up. And it got expedited and rammed through on the statute books. But basically, we hear about so-called migrants, terrorists, using European Convention on Human Rights and the Human Rights Act. People foam at the mouth, saying they're abusing the law. Well, actually, what we're having here is these freeholders were using human rights law to sort of stop this act of parliament that had already passed. They didn't want Labour to switch it on.
And by these freeholders, this is the Duke of Westminster in this case.
Yeah, and some charities, so a bit of woke feudalism going on there as well. So you've basically got, and these people, they've got so much money, they've hired actually the best friends of the Prime Minister.
Sounds like the name of a band, woke feudalism.
Well, exactly. Let's print out mugs and T-shirts. But the fact is that why it's so important is that the government have let the freeholder lobby set the timetable, because they have said for a year now that they want to wait for this decision to come. And what we're worried about is that they're going to let these appeals happen. There will be appeals. We're expecting it will go to Court of Appeal. It will probably go up to the Supreme Court. We may be going to Europe. We may be going to Strasbourg.
And do you think the government will keep the fight going? Or?
We hope so.
Right.
It's going to be a lot of money for the taxpayer, but we need them to keep fighting. But they've got the majority. They promised in the manifesto to end leasehold, so we cannot let them hide behind process.
OK. In terms of what yesterday's ruling means, hypothetically, if there are no appeals, and of course that's very unlikely, but does this now mean that we can see the manifesto commitment to end leasehold?
Yes. Because basically 3 major reforms in that act were challenged. One was about restricting ground rents at 0.1% of the property price. It's not what the Tories were pushing originally. Gove nearly got it through, and then basically all the vested interests said no to it. Treasury cancelled it. They were going to do a peppercorn, make it 0 ground rent for everyone that is suffering with these ground rents already. But it was to buy out your freehold or extend your lease, cap at 0.1%, which will make it much cheaper for you to extend or buy your freehold. Then there was another measure, which is basically about non-litigation costs. At the moment, under the law, if you want to buy your freehold or extend your lease, you don't just pay your costs, you've got to pay the other sides. That's, the court said, absolutely fine, go with it. Then basically there was another measure called getting rid of marriage value. That's something that Parliament gave John Major to basically stuff lobbyists' mouths with gold. And if Parliament can give something, it can take it away. And that's basically what the High Court said. But what we're worried about is that the government are fearing a separate judicial review on the new reforms that they're promising, which is coming forward in a draft bill later this year, which is the Leasehold and Commonhold Reform Bill. And what we say to the government is, you've got the majority. You've seen what's happened in that by-election in Wales. People are sick of waiting for change that they voted for. Do not leave it to the end of the Parliament, because we'll be back to where we were with the Tories, where they talk a great game, press releases, client media, all the rest of it, and all we get is dregs at the end.
I can hear the passion in your voice, Harry. Lastly, when it comes to the service charge, which is another issue that is affecting a lot of people, again, is that being held back by this particular...
Yes, because basically the government, they may fear that if they go in too hard on actually phasing out these freeholders and manipulating the freehold value, that actually they could be sued again. And when you speak to civil servants privately, they say it's not a question of if, it's a question of when we have that other separate judicial review. And lastly, this was already won back in 1986 when the Duke of Westminster, the late one, the deceased one, the father, lost to the Thatcher government. And basically this decision, it's a monster decision. People don't need to read the whole thing, but they quote that. And they say eliminating what are judged to be social injustices is an example of the functions of a democratic legislature. And then they go on to say the margin of appreciation is wide enough to cover legislation aimed at securing greater social justice in the sphere of people's homes, even where such legislation interferes with existing contractual relations between private parties and confers no direct benefit on the state or the community at large. In principle, therefore, the aim pursued by the leasehold reform legislation is a legitimate one. And last point, people forget, but the Prime Minister is a campaigner at heart. He saved men from the gallows. He abolished the death penalty around the world. He's now pushing through the Hillsborough Law. He can help us, the 5.3 million people trapped. 43% of leaseholders say they're not starting a family because of the financial ruin of the system. Come on, Keir. Don't leave it till the next election, because what will happen is we'll do to Labour what we did to the Tories. You'll be out.
OK, well, let's hope he's listening. Lastly, in a sentence, how can people get involved with your campaign, Harry?
Sign up to our website, www.freeleaseholders.org.uk. Join the rebellion.
Thank you very much. Harry Scoffin is housing campaigner and founder of Free Leaseholders.